My name is Vera Westbrook. I'm 28 years old. 7 days before my wedding, I found out my own mother had canceled every single vendor, the flowers, the catering, the venue, and told my fiancé that I was damaged goods and he was making the biggest mistake of his life. On our wedding day, 200 guests arrived to an empty lot, but my maid of honor had seen this coming 6 months ago. What she planned and what my mother walked into changed everything. This isn't just a story about a wedding saved. It's a story about a lifetime of manipulation finally meeting its end. Before we dive into the chaos and the sweet, satisfying justice that followed, I want to ask a small favor. If you've ever felt the suffocating weight of family expectations, or if you've ever dreamed of watching a manipulator's plan crumble right before their eyes, please take a moment to smash that like button and subscribe. It helps these stories find the people who need them most. And stay with me until the end, because the aftermath is just as powerful as the wedding day itself. The story begins not with a wedding, but with a kitchen. A tiny, sunlit kitchen in Ridge Hill, Georgia, where the air was thick with the smell of sawdust and coffee. My name is Vera Westbrook, and for 11 minutes on a Tuesday evening, the world was exactly right. Nathan, my fiancé, a man of few words and steady hands, stood before me holding a ring he had saved 7 months for. There was no fancy restaurant, no ring hidden in a dessert, just a man in a worn flannel shirt asking to spend every morning with me. I said yes before he even finished the sentence. We sat on the cold tile floor afterward, my back against the cabinets, his arm around my shoulder, watching the small diamond catch the light. For those 11 minutes, I was just a girl who was loved. I wasn't a daughter carrying the weight of a widow's grief. I wasn't a project to be managed. I was simply happy. Then the phone rang. The screen lit up with the one word that had dictated the rhythm of my life for 9 years. Mom. I answered, still smiling, still floating on the high of the proposal. Mom. There was no congratulations, no gasp of joy, no "oh honey, I'm so happy for you." The first words out of her mouth were a logistical interrogation. But Nathan, just where are you having it? No, where's the venue? I need to know now. I glanced at Nathan. He tilted his head, listening, his brow furrowing slightly. We haven't decided anything yet, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice light. He literally just asked. Her voice cut through the warmth of the room like a cold draft. Well, you need to start deciding. These things book out a year in advance. I'll handle the calls. I should explain something here, something crucial to understanding the years that followed. My whole life, every decision I ever made had to pass through my mother first. Which college? Which major? Which apartment? It was a filtration system where her approval was the only screen. When my father died unexpectedly when I was 19, the tether tightened into a noose. She pulled me close at the funeral, her mascara-streaked face pressed against my shoulder, and whispered, "It's just us now. You're all I have." From that day on, saying no to her felt like abandoning a widow on a sinking ship. It felt like a sin. So when I took a breath on that kitchen floor and told her, "Mom, we want to plan it ourselves," the line went quiet. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. That silence was a weapon she had perfected. Finally, she spoke, her voice small and wounded. Fine, I understand, you don't need me anymore. My chest tightened instantly. The old guilt, the one she had installed like software in my operating system when I was a child, booted up. It was a physical sensation, a heavy weight pressing on my lungs. No, Mom, I rushed to correct myself. Of course I need you. I want you to help. I heard her exhale, satisfied. She had won the point. Nathan watched me from across the kitchen. He didn't say anything, but his jaw shifted just slightly, the way it does when he's holding something back. I didn't know it then, sitting on that kitchen floor, but that phone call was the first move in a game my mother had been waiting her whole life to play. It wasn't about the wedding. It was about ownership. 3 months after the engagement, the takeover began. It happened the way water rises in a basement during a flood, silent, gradual, and by the time you notice it, you are already ankle deep and your shoes are ruined. First, she offered to make a few calls to vendors because I was busy teaching 3rd grade. It was helpful, I told myself. She was being generous. Then, she started showing up to tastings without telling me, charming the caterers and making decisions about menus I hadn't approved. Then, she changed the contact information on the florist's account to her own number, effectively locking me out of my own wedding plans. I wanted wildflowers, sunflowers, lavender, baby's breath, loose and messy and alive, reflecting the chaotic beauty of nature. My mother ordered white roses. For elegance, she said. You'll thank me later. I wanted barbecue pulled pork and cornbread, a comfort food feast that felt like us. She wrinkled her nose. You can't serve barbecue at a wedding, Vera. People will talk. It's tacky. I wanted the seating chart to prioritize Nathan's family, to welcome them into the fold. She rearranged it so her bridge club friends filled the first 4 rows, pushing his relatives to the back like distant observers. Every time I pushed back, and I only knew how to push back gently, she deployed her nuclear option. She would cry, not just tears, but a performance of profound hurt. She would sit in our living room, dabbing her eyes with a tissue she seemed to always have ready, and whisper, I'm just trying to make this beautiful for you. Your father would have wanted it this way. She invoked the dead to control the living, and I folded, every single time. Nathan started spending longer hours in his workshop. He didn't complain, but I would catch him standing at his workbench sometimes, not building anything, just staring at the wall, processing the tension. One evening, Rachel, my maid of honor and my best friend since the 8th grade, came over for rehearsal dinner planning. She watched my mother rearrange the centerpiece samples I had chosen, replacing every single one. Rachel didn't say a word to Diane, but later at the door she grabbed my arm. Her grip was tighter than usual. I need you to trust me on something, she said, her voice low. Don't ask questions yet. I laughed nervously. What do you mean? She just squeezed my hand and left. I didn't understand her urgency then. I didn't know that Rachel had already seen the ending of this movie before the opening credits had even finished rolling. 2 months before the wedding, my mother invited Nathan to lunch, just the 2 of them. She said it was to talk family things. I thought it was a good sign, an olive branch. I was a fool. Nathan came home that afternoon and sat down across from me at the kitchen table. He folded his hands. He was always careful with his words, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his knuckles whitened against the wood. Your mother told me you had a breakdown in college, he said. My stomach dropped. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. She used the phrase damaged goods, he continued. I stared at him, the room suddenly too small. She said, my daughter needs someone who can handle her. Can you really? The air left my lungs. Yes, after my father died, I went through a dark stretch my sophomore year. I saw a counselor. I worked through it. It wasn't a secret, but it wasn't ammunition either. My mother had reached into my past, found a moment of vulnerability, and weaponized it. What did you say? I whispered, terrified that the lies had planted a seed of doubt. Nathan looked at me steadily, his eyes clear. I said, I don't see damage, I see someone who survived you. Something cracked open in my chest. Not pain, something warmer, something like salvation. She left after that, he added. Didn't finish her iced tea. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the aftermath, the counterattack. Nathan disrespected me at lunch, she hissed. He's isolating you from your family, Vera. That's what men like him do. Carpenters, blue collar, no ambition. I gripped the phone. He builds furniture with his hands, Mom. He builds things. Your father was an accountant, she shot back. Then the ultimatum. Dad is gone, I said, my voice trembling. Silence stretched across the line, heavy and dangerous. Then very quietly she said, don't you dare throw that at me. She hung up. I sat there, caught between 2 versions of the truth. My mother's, where she was the hero protecting me, and the real one, where she was the villain trying to ensure I never left her side. I didn't know it yet, but this was just the opening skirmish. The rumors started small, like a slow leak in a tire. 6 weeks before the wedding, I walked into Patty's hair salon for a trim. Patty, who had done my hair since I was 14, sat me down and leaned close. Honey, are you okay? Your mama stopped by yesterday, said things aren't going well at home. I blinked. What did she say exactly? Patty hesitated, looking uncomfortable. Just that you've been struggling, that Nathan might not be the right fit. I pasted on that smile, the one you use when your insides are liquefying. Everything is fine, Patty. But it wasn't fine. The next day at Dale's Market, Mrs. Brewer gave me a look of pure, unfiltered pity. Vera, sweetheart, if you ever need to talk. In a town of 4,000 people, a rumor doesn't travel, it teleports. Within 48 hours, my mother had seeded every coffee counter and church parking lot with the same narrative. Vera is fragile. Nathan is a mistake. The wedding shouldn't happen. I started feeling it everywhere. The sideways glances at the post office. The overly gentle tones from parents at school pickup. People treating me like I was made of wet paper. That Thursday, a text from Rachel popped up on my screen. Don't react to anything your mom does this week. I mean it. Trust me. I stared at the glowing letters. "You're scaring me," I typed back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Good. Scared means you're paying attention. She didn't explain further, and for reasons I couldn't articulate, I didn't push. I just held onto that text like a life raft. 5 weeks out, my mother called Gloria Cole, Nathan's mother. I didn't find out from Gloria. I found out from Nathan, who found out from his mother, her voice tight and careful. "Nathan, is there something about Vera I should know?" Nathan put the phone on speaker. "Diane called me last night," Gloria said. "She said Vera has a history of," she used the word episodes. "She said Vera needed psychiatric treatment in college and that she worries about her stability. She told me you should know what you're getting into." My hands went cold. I watched Nathan's face. His expression didn't change, but a muscle near his temple twitched. "Mom," he said firmly, "Vera saw a counselor after her dad died. That's it. Diane is twisting it." Gloria paused. "I believe you, honey, but she was very convincing. She cried." Of course she cried. The tears were her currency. After Nathan hung up, he turned to me. For the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't just patience. It was clarity. "Your mother is not trying to protect you, Vera," he said. "She's trying to own you." I knew he was right. I had known for years, maybe. But hearing it out loud in our kitchen on a Saturday morning, with sunlight on the floor, it sounded different. It sounded true. Here is what nobody tells you about weddings. The money disappears before the first dance starts. We had saved for 3 years, $18,000 pulled from teacher paychecks and early carpentry commissions. Skipped vacations, a used car instead of a new one. Every dollar earmarked. Most of those vendors had a 30-day cancellation policy. We were now inside that window. If the wedding didn't happen, we lost almost everything. I sat at the kitchen table one evening with our budget spreadsheet open. Nathan was across from me, sanding a chair leg by hand because the noise of the power sander bothered our neighbor's dog. "If we had to walk away right now," I said, "how much do we lose?" He didn't look up. "Most of it. $18,000, $3 years of packing lunch instead of buying it. 3 years of Nathan working weekends. That money was supposed to be our start. A down payment fund, a safety net, a future. And right now, it was sitting in contracts controlled by a woman who thought my happiness was a threat to hers. I closed the laptop and pressed my palms against my eyes. "If I don't do something," I whispered, "I lose the money, I lose face in front of 200 people, I lose your mother's trust." I lowered my hands. "And I lose myself." Nathan put down the sandpaper. "You won't lose me." "I know," I said. "Then we figure it out." I nodded. But sitting there in the quiet, I thought this was the bottom. I was wrong. 7 days before the wedding, a Monday, I was grading papers at my desk during lunch when I decided to call the florist. Just a routine confirmation. The phone rang twice. "Magnolia Florals, this is Dawn." "Hi, Dawn, it's Vera Westbrook, just checking in on our order for Saturday." A pause, too long. "Ma'am, that order was canceled 3 days ago." The pencil in my hand stopped moving. "Excuse me?" "Your mother called. She said the wedding was off." I hung up. My fingers were shaking as I dialed the caterer. "Miss Westbrook? Yes, we received the cancellation Thursday. Your mother said." I hung up again. I called the venue. "I'm sorry, Miss Westbrook. Mrs. Diane Westbrook called and canceled the reservation. She said the family had decided." I didn't let her finish. I sat at my desk, staring at my phone, and felt the ground beneath me dissolve. Not crack, dissolve like sand under a wave. I called my mother. She picked up on the first ring as if she had been waiting. "Mom, you canceled my wedding." "I canceled a mistake. That was not your decision." "Everything about you is my decision, Vera," she said, her voice flat and even, terrifyingly calm. "I raised you, I fed you, I buried your father alone. This wedding, it's mine to give or take." Something shifted inside me. Not anger, not yet. Something colder. Something that had been sleeping for 28 years and just opened its eyes. "No," I said. "It isn't." I hung up. My hands were still shaking, but my voice was steady. And that surprised me more than anything she had said. I don't remember driving home. I only remember the kitchen floor, the cold of the tile through my dress, the way the afternoon light made a rectangle on the wall that moved so slowly it felt like time had thickened. I wasn't crying. I was just sitting there, my back against the dishwasher, my bag still on my shoulder, staring at nothing. Nathan found me like that when he came in from the workshop, sawdust on his forearms. He didn't ask what happened. He just sat down next to me on the floor, close enough that our shoulders touched. The refrigerator hummed. "She canceled everything," I said finally. "Every vendor, all of them." He didn't flinch. When? 3 days ago, behind my back. His hand found mine. His palm was rough and warm. She told me this morning it was hers to give or take. Yes, Nathan said quietly. Then we'll figure this out. 7 days, Nathan. No florist, no caterer, no venue, no money for replacements. I know. My mother wants me to fail. The sentence sat in the room like a living thing. The first time I had ever said it out loud. Nathan pulled out his phone. I'm calling Rachel. Rachel picked up. Nathan gave her the short version. Vendors canceled. Diane responsible. 7 days. Rachel listened. I could hear the silence on her end, not the silence of shock, but the silence of a plan clicking into place. Don't call any vendors, Rachel said, her voice steady and commanding. Don't call your mother, I need 48 hours. That same night, after I had fallen into a restless sleep on the couch, Nathan's phone rang. He was in the kitchen. I heard him answer, heard his voice drop low. I didn't move. Later, much later, he told me what happened. My mother had called him at 10:47. She had a breakdown in college, she said. Did she tell you the full story? Nathan said nothing. She couldn't get out of bed for 3 weeks. She missed finals. I had to fly up and bring her home. She can't handle stress, Nathan. She'll fall apart. You'll be the one picking up the pieces. She was trying to break him. Walk away now, she urged. Save yourself. You seem like a decent man. Don't let her ruin your life. Nathan reached across the counter and tapped a button on his phone. Record. Georgia is a one-party consent state. He knew this because his buddy Marcus had told him once after a contractor tried to cheat him on a job. Is that everything, Diane? He asked calmly. I'm trying to help you. Noted. He hung up. He saved the file. He didn't tell me that night. He could see I was barely holding together, and one more blow might have cracked the foundation. The next morning, he drove to Rachel's apartment before work. He handed her his phone, the recording queued up. Rachel listened. Her face didn't change. When it ended, she looked at Nathan and said, This is exactly what I needed. What are you planning, Rachel? Nathan asked. She tapped the phone against her palm. Insurance, the kind your mother-in-law can't cancel. She didn't elaborate. And Nathan, because he's Nathan, trusted her the same way I did, completely. Those were the longest 48 hours of my life, but I didn't know yet that Rachel had been preparing for this moment for 6 months. 5 days before the wedding, Rachel showed up at our door carrying a manila folder thick enough to prop open a window. She sat at our kitchen table, the same table where Nathan proposed, where I learned about the cancellations, and opened the folder. I need to tell you something, she said, and I need you to let me finish before you react. I nodded. The day your mom volunteered to handle the wedding 6 months ago, I started making backup plans. I stared at her. 6 months? Do you remember your college graduation? I did. My mother arrived 40 minutes late, started an argument with my roommate's parents over parking, and spent the reception telling everyone my education degree was a waste. I cried in the bathroom. Rachel held my hair back. I made a promise to myself that day, Rachel said. That she would never ruin another milestone for you. She pulled out a printed contract. Elmwood Garden Estate, a private garden property 12 minutes from downtown Ridge Hill, owned by a woman named June Whitfield, a friend of Rachel's. The contract was signed in Rachel's name, dated 6 months ago. A $2,000 deposit, her own money. You spent your own money, my voice cracked. You do the same for me. I looked at the date, 6 months. She started this the same week my mother took over the vendor calls. Rachel saw it coming before I did, before anyone did. Rachel flipped through the folder like a general briefing a war room. Florist, Sandy's blooms out of Carterville. Wildflowers, sunflowers, lavender, exactly what you originally wanted. I pressed my hand over my mouth. Caterer, Big Jim's Smokehouse. Pulled pork, cornbread, brisket, sweet tea in mason jars. Nathan let out a short laugh, the first one I'd heard from him in weeks. DJ is my friend Marcus. Photographer is my coworker Lena. Total backup cost, $6,500. I've covered it. You pay me back whenever. I shook my head. Rachel, that's not negotiable, she cut me off. She moved on. Guest list. I pulled the original list you shared with me when you first got engaged before your mother took over communications. 200 names. I have a separate contact database for every single one. She explained the plan. Morning of the wedding, she would send a mass text and make personal calls to the 15 most important guests. And my mother? I asked. Rachel met my eyes. She gets the original address, only the original address. The room went quiet. I also called someone else, Rachel said carefully. Maggie Coulter, WRDG-TV, the news local interest piece. Best Friend Saves Wedding, a community love story. Maggie doesn't know the details about your mom. She just knows it's a feel-good segment. I hesitated. A camera crew felt like a step I couldn't take back. Rachel read my face. You don't have to decide now, but Vera, your mother, put this on Facebook. She made it public first. This is just the truth catching up. 4 days before the wedding, a Thursday, I was standing in the hallway outside my classroom refilling my water bottle when I heard her voice. Not on the phone this time. In person, in my building. I'm here to check on my daughter. She's been unstable. I looked up. My mother was standing at the end of the hallway, speaking to the front desk volunteer loud enough for every open classroom door to hear. I'm worried she'll have another episode. Mrs. Patterson, the 5th grade teacher, stepped into her doorway. Mr. Gaines, the custodian, froze mid-sweep. My face went white. I walked toward her, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. Mom, this is my workplace. Please leave. She pivoted, her expression shifting into wounded victimhood. I'm your mother. I have a right to check on you. The principal, Mr. Henderson, appeared. He was a gentle man, but he understood scenes. Ma'am, I'll need to ask you to step outside. My mother looked around at the staring faces. You'll see, she said, walking toward the exit. Everyone will see. The door closed behind her. A hand touched my elbow. It was Mrs. Daniels, a teacher who had been at the school for 30 years. She leaned close. Honey, my mother was the same. Don't let her win. 5 words from a near stranger, and they held me up for the rest of the day. 2 days before the wedding, the rehearsal dinner at Gloria Cole's house. About 30 people. Fried chicken, potato salad. The mood was warm, nervous, hopeful. My mother was not invited. She came anyway. I heard her car door at 7:15 p.m. She walked up the porch steps carrying a bottle of wine and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Gloria opened the door, startled. Deanne, we weren't expecting. I'm the mother of the bride. She stepped inside. The living room went quiet. She poured herself a glass of wine and raised it. I'd like to make a toast. Nobody stopped her. That's how she operated. She counted on politeness to paralyze us. I just hope Nathan knows what he's signing up for. This marriage won't last longer than her attention span. The room was a held breath. Gloria stood up. Her voice was iron wrapped in velvet. Deanne, that's enough. My mother took a sip, set the glass down, and looked around the room. I said what I said. She walked out. The screen door slapped shut. Gloria crossed the room and bent down next to my chair. Her eyes were wet. I'm sorry I ever doubted you. You are welcome in this family, Vera, always. One day before the wedding, Friday evening, my phone buzzed. A screenshot from my coworker, Jenny. It was a Facebook post from my mother's account. Please pray for my daughter. She's rushing into a marriage against medical advice. I've done everything I can. A mother's heart is broken. Against medical advice. I read it 3 times. There was no medical advice. There was no doctor. She invented a medical crisis and posted it to 800 people. Rachel took the phone from my hand like a nurse removing a weapon. Don't respond. Tomorrow, the truth will speak for itself. Saturday morning, wedding day. 6 a.m. I woke up in Rachel's guest room to the sound of her already on the phone. Yes, ma'am, venue upgrade. Surprise for the bride and groom. New address is Elmwood Garden Estate, 412 Whitfield Lane. By 8 a.m., she had confirmed the location with 197 out of 200 guests. One person was not on the contact list, Diane Westbrook. She received no text, no call, no new address. As far as she knew, the wedding was at the original venue, the empty lot. At noon, I put on my dress. Simple, ivory, tea-length. Uncle Tom arrived at 1:30 p.m. He was wearing a gray suit, polished shoes, eyes red. Lord Vera, he said, stopping in the doorway. You look like your daddy on his wedding day, stubborn and beautiful. Elmwood Garden Estate sat at the end of a gravel lane lined with pecan trees. There was a white wooden gate, open wide. Beyond it, a rolling lawn edged with the wildflower beds I had chosen, the flowers my mother had erased, brought back to life by Rachel. Fairy lights were strung between 2 ancient live oaks. Wooden chairs lined the center aisle, chairs Nathan had built himself over the last year, one every weekend, hidden in his workshop. He was building our wedding without me knowing. The barbecue pit was already going, Big Jim in his denim apron. It was better than the original. It was ours. Guests started arriving at 2:30. They stepped through the gate and stopped. Some pressed their hands to their chests. Some laughed in disbelief. Maggie Coulter from WRDG-TV arrived quietly with her cameraman. Rachel briefed them. A heartwarming story about friendship and community. 3:00 p.m. The afternoon light turned gold. Uncle Tom took my arm. "Slow steps," he murmured. "Make it count." The music started, a guitar playing a finger-picked version of the song Nathan and I danced to on our first date. I stepped forward. 200 faces turned. Nathan stood at the end of the aisle, his eyes red. The officiant kept it simple. Nathan's vows were steady, his voice breaking only once on the word home. My turn. I didn't read from a card. "I choose you," I said, "not because I need to be saved, but because I finally know I deserve to be loved without conditions. I don't need permission to be happy. Not from anyone, not anymore." We kissed under the live oaks. 197 people rose to their feet, and somewhere 12 minutes away, an empty lot waited in silence. At 3:15 p.m., the second act of the drama began. I learned the details later, pieced together from Uncle Tom and the security guard. My mother drove to the original venue at 3:15. She parked her silver sedan, the one she always kept spotless, and stepped out in a navy blue dress and pearl earrings. She was dressed for victory. She walked toward the lot. It was empty. No tent, no chairs, no confused relatives, no one weeping on their phone, no one at all. The smile faded. She pulled out her phone and called me. Voicemail. She called Rachel. Voicemail. She called Gloria. Voicemail. Nathan's cousin Danny. Voicemail. 7 calls, 8, 9, not a single answer. She stood in the middle of that empty lot, phone pressed to her ear, turning in a slow circle. The cicadas were loud. She was completely, utterly alone. Finally, someone answered. A distant cousin of Nathan's, Bev, 74, hard of hearing. "Oh, Diane, didn't you get the message? Weddings at Elmwood Garden now." My mother hung up without saying goodbye. 25 minutes later, her silver sedan crunched up the gravel lane at Elmwood Garden Estate. She saw the white gate. She heard the music. She smelled the barbecue. She parked. She walked to the gate. Her heels sank into the gravel. A man was standing at the entrance. Kyle, Rachel's friend, 62, calm-faced, holding a clipboard. "Good afternoon, ma'am. May I see your invitation?" My mother straightened. "I'm the mother of the bride." Kyle looked down at his list. He scanned it carefully. He looked up. "I'm sorry, ma'am, your name isn't on the guest list." My mother stared at him. "There must be a mistake." "No mistake, ma'am. I've checked twice." Through the gate, she could see the chairs, the wildflowers. She could see the back of my dress. She could see Nathan's arm around my waist. Everything she tried to destroy was right there, alive and whole. And there was a gate between her and it. A man with a clipboard, and her name nowhere on the list. "This is my daughter's wedding. I am her mother." Her voice rose, sharp and raw. Kyle didn't move. "Ma'am, I understand, but I'm not authorized. I gave birth to her." Guests near the gate turned their heads. Nathan's Aunt Margaret whispered something. Mrs. Henderson shook her head. My mother saw the faces looking at her, not with sympathy, but with recognition. They knew what she did. Then my mother saw the camera. Maggie Coulter and her cameraman had moved toward the gate. The red light was on. My mother froze. The tears stopped. She looked at the lens the way a deer looks at headlights. She stood there, the mask cracking, just a woman in a navy dress who bet everything on control and lost. She turned around, walked to her car, and drove away. She didn't look back. Inside the garden, I was dancing. I didn't know she came. I didn't know she left. Rachel stood near the dessert table, watching the gate. She saw the silver sedan disappear. She took a sip of sweet tea and walked back to the dance floor. No triumph, just peace. Later that night, Nathan played me the recording, my mother's voice hanging in the warm night air telling him to leave me. "I'm not damaged," I said. "I never was." "This isn't revenge," I said. "This is just the truth." The next morning, I wrote a letter, handwritten, because some things should cost effort. "Mom, I love you. I need you to know that first because the rest of this letter will be hard to read. I need distance. I don't know for how long. But the door opens from my side now. Not yours. I love you, Mom. But love without boundaries isn't love. It's captivity." I folded the letter and gave it to Uncle Tom to deliver. I didn't ask how she reacted. 1 week later, Maggie Coulter's segment aired. "Maid of Honor saves best friend's wedding after family sabotage." She didn't name my mother directly, but in a town of 4,000, subtraction is identification. Within 3 days, the ripples were everywhere. Her board seat at the women's auxiliary, put on leave. Invitations to Sunday potluck stopped. The currency of her reputation was now worthless. I didn't sue. I didn't file charges. I just kept the evidence. We didn't get rich. We didn't get even. We just got free. 3 months later, our house is small. The porch needs repainting. Nathan says he'll get to it in spring. I believe him because the man finishes everything he starts. I go back to teaching. Gloria Cole teaches me to make peach cobbler. I haven't spoken to my mother directly. Uncle Tom tells me she's seeing a therapist on and off. She's trying. Slowly. The door is still there. I check on it sometimes in my mind. 6 months after the wedding, I came home to find a piece of mail on the porch. Not in the mailbox. Hand-delivered. A cream-colored envelope. My name written in handwriting I'd recognize in the dark. Inside, no letter, no words, just a single pressed wildflower, a black-eyed Susan. I held it for a long time. The flower I chose. The flower Rachel brought back. I don't know if it's an apology. I don't know if it's a goodbye. I placed it on the bookshelf, leaning against our wedding photo. Nathan and me under the live oaks. My mother didn't say anything. And maybe that's the kindest thing she's done in years. My name is Vera Westbrook Cole. I'm 29 now. And for the first time, my life is mine. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you found yourself standing in that empty lot? Have you ever had a friend like Rachel who saved the day? And of course, subscribe for more stories where the good guys actually win. See you in the next one.